Stay with me. We're almost there. Oh, my baby, please hold on.
What's happening to him?
You might be wondering why I'm standing here in a hospital hallway, watching as they wheel a child past me, while I stand frozen, terrified. How did I even get here? Well, to understand that, I need to take you back a little.
I hope I'll meet Uncle Philip this time in his office.
I had not slept in 2 days. My hands would not stop shaking as I walked through the crowded emergency wing of the teaching hospital, following the sound of beeping machines and quiet crying. The fluorescent lights were too bright. Everything felt too loud. I was there for one reason: to talk to my Uncle Philip, a doctor with 20 years of experience. Because I had just found out that Ada and I shared the same genotype, AS and AS. And everywhere I turned, people kept telling me we could not be together. Uncle Philip's office was small and smelled of antiseptic. Before I could even sit down, a stretcher flew past the open door. I ran out to see. On it was a little boy, maybe 7 years old, writhing in pain, his face twisted and his tiny fists clenched. A nurse was pressing an oxygen mask to his face. His mother ran behind the stretcher, screaming his name. I froze. I went back in and couldn't alter a word. Then I managed to say,
Uncle Philip, I came because I need your advice. Ada and I love each other. We are both AS. I see. Have you considered the implications? People say we cannot marry, but I cannot just walk away from her. It's hard. I understand. Let's talk about what makes it so difficult for you.
Uncle Philip set down a thick brown file slowly. His face was calm, but his eyes were not. Emmanuel, he said quietly, if you are both AS, every single pregnancy carries a 25% chance of producing a child with SS. The words hit me like cold water. Then his pager went off. The nurse appeared at the door. Doctor, the boy's crashing. He ran. I followed. What I saw next, I was not ready for. The boy was convulsing. His small body shook violently against the hospital bed while 3 nurses and Uncle Philip worked around him. IV lines, oxygen. His father stood pressed against the far wall, both hands over his mouth, tears streaming silently down his face. His mother had collapsed into a plastic chair, still calling her son's name in a broken whisper. I stood in the doorway and could not move. That 25% Uncle Philip had mentioned had felt like a statistic a minute ago. Standing in that room, watching that child fight for his life, it stopped feeling like a number. It felt like a door that could open to that kind of pain, that same suffering, in my own home, with my own child. 30 minutes later, the boy was stable. We returned to the office. Uncle Philip sat across from me and looked me straight in the eyes. Love is powerful, he said, but genetics does not negotiate with emotions. AS and AS can produce AA, AS, or SS. Each pregnancy is a fresh draw. You could have 3 healthy children. You could have 3 with SS. There is no memory in the probability. It resets every time. I felt like I was being torn in 2 directions at once. Then he leaned forward slightly. But that is not the full story, Emmanuel. I looked up. There are options, internationally recognized options, but they come with serious costs, financial, emotional, and moral. You need to hear all of them before you make any decision. He paused, letting the weight of that sentence sit between us. I gripped the edge of the chair. What options? And why did his voice suddenly sound like he was about to say something that would change everything again? The next morning, I brought Ada to the hospital. She had heard people talk about genotype compatibility before, but walking through that ward changed something in her eyes. I watched her face as she looked at the children in the beds, some sleeping, some in pain, all of them young and carrying something heavy. Then she told me what she had been holding inside for months. Emmanuel, I already knew, Ada whispered, her voice barely above a breath. My parents are both AS. My younger brother, Chidi, is SS. The room went silent between us. She told me everything. Chidi had been hospitalized 6 times in 2 years. She had watched her mother weep over medical bills they could barely pay. She had made a quiet promise to herself that she would never knowingly bring a child into that kind of suffering. But then she had met me, and she had fallen in love before she could stop herself. I was not angry, but I felt something close to grief, not because she had hidden it, but because she had been carrying all of that fear completely alone. Uncle Philip outlined our real choices plainly. We could walk away from each other. We could marry and accept the 25% risk with every pregnancy, or we could explore advanced reproductive options, specifically IVF with genetic screening, where embryos are tested before implantation so only healthy ones are used. But that option was extremely expensive and not easily accessible for most families in Nigeria. Ada looked at Uncle Philip, then at me, and asked the question that shook the entire room. If we marry and our child is born with SS, will love be enough to carry that? I had no answer, not one that felt honest. Uncle Philip asked us both to sit. Then he spoke slowly and clearly, the way doctors do when they need you to remember every single word. He explained the genetics plainly. Every pregnancy between 2 AS parents carries a 25% chance of SS, a 50% chance of AS, and a 25% chance of AA. That risk does not shrink with time. It does not improve because of love or prayer or good intentions. It resets completely with every pregnancy. He told us what SS could mean for a child's life. Painful crises that arrive without warning, severe anemia that drains the body, risk of stroke, damage to organs over time, a constant vulnerability to infections, and beyond the physical, the emotional weight on parents, the financial pressure that breaks many families quietly and slowly. Then he laid out the options available to couples in our situation, step by step. Genetic counseling before marriage, so both partners fully understand what they are agreeing to. IVF with pre-implantation genetic testing, where only AA or AS embryos are selected. Prenatal diagnosis during pregnancy, though that path carries its own difficult ethical decisions. Adoption, a deeply loving choice that many couples never seriously consider. And finally, the simplest but hardest option, choosing a partner whose genotype is AA, which removes the SS risk entirely. He finished by saying something I did not expect. Marriage is not only about love, he said quietly. It is also about responsibility for lives that do not yet exist. Ada squeezed my hand. Neither of us spoke. Then Uncle Philip picked up a brown file from his desk and placed it gently in front of me. I recognized it. It was the file of the little boy from the day before. He survived, Uncle Philip said, but survival is not the same as freedom from suffering. I stared at that file for a long time, and in that moment I understood that this was no longer about whether I could bear to lose Ada. It was about whether we were both ready to carry the full weight of the choice we were about to make, together, with clear eyes and without excuses.
So I ask you now the same question that kept me awake that night. Would you risk 25% for love? Or does real love sometimes mean protecting a future you have not yet seen? Comment, like, and subscribe to this channel.